Hi lovelies, you're welcome back to my channel. Let's make this stylish gown here with this basque line. It's a gathered gown, okay? Now I went ahead to make use of a mikado fabric of 2 yards. Now you can make use of a silky like a crepe material if you don't want this to be too full the way it is on me, okay? Now I've gone ahead to measure out what I'm going to need to cut out the front piece, and I've also gone ahead to take I came down by half inch, then I mark a line there which is my shoulder line. So from my shoulder line I came down to my bust line, okay? From my shoulder line I came down to my under bust line, and then from my shoulder line again I came down to my waistline. Then from my waistline I came down by 4.5 inches just to give it that basque effect, okay? You can make use of 4 inches, anyone that you want. So I from that my basque waistline I came down by half inch for the stitching allowance to join the down, okay? Now after doing that I'm going to take my shoulder measurement of 16 inches divided by 2 will give me 8 inches, okay? Now I'm going to mark the 8 inches on that first my shoulder line there. Then I'll come down a bit and mark the same 8 inches, okay? So I'm going to have like a straight line. Then from this point here I'm going to come down by half inch to get my shoulder slope. So now I'm going to go ahead and connect the shoulder slope to the shoulder line, okay? This way. After I'm done doing this, the next thing I'm going to do now is to take the neck wideness of 3 inches. This is the normal standard neck wideness, but I later went ahead to expand the neck wideness more, okay? So if you want a very wide neck, go ahead and make use of 7 inches, 7 inches for the depth, of 6 inches for the depth. Then for the wideness, just make use of 4 inches, 4.5 inches. Now I'm going to go ahead and connect it this way. The next thing I'm going to do is from that my shoulder slope point here, I'm going to go ahead and mark my armhole circumference divided by 2. Then I'll mark the point there, and then I will go ahead and connect it. But because this is a sleeveless top, you can just go ahead and minus half inch. If for instance after dividing your armhole measurement circumference by 2 is 8 inches, just mark 7.5 inches, okay? Now after marking the points there, I'll go ahead and also mark it this way as well, okay? Now this is my chest line. So after marking the chest line, I just went ahead to correct my bust line to make it straight, okay? Now after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is to divide my armhole circumference by 2. Then I'll get the midpoint. From the midpoint, I'm going to come in by half inch, and then I'll take my bust circumference divided by 4, which gives me 10 inches. I'll mark the point there, and then I'll go ahead to connect the armhole this way, okay? So now I'll go ahead and connect the hand. After doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is my nipple to nipple measurement is 8 inches. I divided it by 2 and I have 4 inches. So because I'm cutting this directly on my fabric, I just decided instead of marking the 4 inches, I mark 4.5 inches. Okay, because I'm cutting directly from the fabric. If you're not cutting from the fabric, make use of the normal bust span measurement divided by 2, okay? Now after doing that, I went ahead to mark it on my bust line, my under bust line, my waist, and lastly the basque waistline, okay? And then I'll go ahead to roll my dart line. From my waistline here, I'm going to mark half inch on both sides of the dart leg. Now after marking it from my that basque line here on the dart leg, I'm going to come up by 1 inch, okay? Now after coming up by 1 inch, I'll go ahead now to connect the darts this way. Now from the bust line on the dart leg, I'm going to come down by 1 inch, which is what I always do, okay? Now I'll go ahead and connect it this way to the waist part here. Then this is how I'm going to be holding the dart, okay? Now the next thing I'm going to do is to take my waist measurement Okay, after dividing by 4, now I'm going to replace the dart intake of 1 inch. Do not forget to do that. Now after marking it, the next thing I'm going to do is on my basque waistline here, I'm going to take my hip circumference divided by 4, which gives me 11 inches. So I'm going to mark the point there. Then I will go ahead and connect the body measurements together. Okay. So after I've gone ahead to take the body measurement, I'm going to add 2 inches allowance. I like allowance to always be in my dress, okay, but you can make use of 1.5 inches or 1 inch depending on what you want. Now after I'm done marking, adding the body allowance, the next thing I'm going to do is from my waistline here on the main body line, I'm going to come down by half inch. Now this half inch is for my stitching allowance with the down part. Now I just went ahead to label this for more understanding. So my waistline, my under bust line, my chest line, my bust line. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is from the waistline, that is where I came down by half inch on the main body measurement. Then I will go ahead to connect it this way to that half inch stitching allowance I left below the basque waistline. Okay. So after I was done connecting the basque waistline this way, I'm going to go ahead and extend a half inch to the body allowance. Okay. Now after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and cut this out. But before doing that, if you want to make this like a princess armhole princess that, just go ahead and connect it from this point here, which is the bust line on the dart leg, to that middle point on the armhole area. Then from that point here, you're going to go up by 1 inch, and then you go ahead and connect it back to the chest line this way. Okay, this is if you want to make use of princess dart pattern. Okay, but for this tutorial, I'm not making use of princess dart pattern. I'm just showing you the easy way you can actually achieve that. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. Okay, so I'm going to be cutting the side, adding half inch stitching allowance, okay, just to use the lining to turn it. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and cut out the armhole area as well. Now after doing that, like I said before, I went ahead to extend the neck wideness and the neck depth. So go ahead and measure what you want, how deep you want the neck to be and how wide you want the neck to be for your own. Then that is it. So after I'm done doing that, I'm going to notch the dart line, or where I'm going to take the dart, and I'll also go ahead notch the middle point, and also I'm going to be tracing the darts on the main surface. Okay, like where I'm going to use as the front of this my dress. Now after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and cut out the back piece. So this is all for the front piece. Like I said, I'm going to actually um still cut the neck area because it was too small. Okay, so this is what I'm saying. I went ahead to mark 4 inches, or you can make use of 4.5. It depends on what you want at this point. Okay, then I went ahead to go ahead and I connected it this way. So just decide what you want, how deep you want the neck to be, how wide you want the neck to be. Okay, now I'll go ahead and cut this out, leaving half inch stitching allowance. Okay, now this is all for the front piece. I'll go ahead to cut the back piece. So for the back piece, guys, I've gone ahead to fold the back piece by 2. I got enough material that will be enough to cut out the back piece, and then I mark 2 inches for the zipper allowance. Then I rule that zipper allowance line. Then I went ahead to place the front piece on that zipper allowance line. So I'm just going to go ahead and trace the front piece to the back piece, just like you see me doing. Okay, now when it gets to this the armhole area, I'm not going to follow as the exact measurement at this point here. I'm just going to come out a bit by about half inch, and then I'll connect it back to this down part of, that is the chest line part. Okay, now after doing that, I'll go ahead to mark out the waistline on the back piece, which is what I just did. Then from that point on the zipper allowance line, I'm going to go in by ½ inch. Now this is to avoid any zipper bulginess when I apply my zip. Okay, now I will go ahead and connect it this way. So it's very important you always do this to avoid any zipper bulginess. Okay, now go ahead and connect it this way. After connecting in this way, I'm going to, so let me just connect it very well. Just watch what I'm doing. Then after I'm done doing that, I'm going to be cutting out this particular side. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is just to cut this out. So the reason why I left 2 inches for the zipper allowance line is because I know I'm going to use ½ inch to use and turn it with the lining. Okay, that's the reason why I left 2 inches for the zipper allowance. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is to roll my shoulder line on the back line as well. Then I will come down by 1.5 inches for the neck depth of the back, and I'll connect it to the front shape for the neck wideness. Okay, now after doing that, I'll go ahead to cut the neck of the back this way, leaving ½ inch stitching allowance. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is to trace out the dart leg on the back piece as well. So I'm using the front piece to trace out the dart leg on the back piece. Now after notching the dart, I will go ahead to still mark the waist point on the back piece. I'm using the front piece actually to do this. Now after doing that, I'll go ahead to cut the lining. Okay, so after I'm done cutting my lining, I will start sewing. Okay, now this is the front piece, this is the lining. Now for the front piece at the neck area, I just added my stay. If you have full stay, please go ahead and apply full stay. Now I'm going to be placing the lining on the right side of the fabric. Okay, now I'll go ahead and sew the neck with ½ inch. Now after sewing with ½ inch, I'll go ahead and just trim out the excess, and then I will notch this and then go ahead to top stitch from the lining part. Okay, always do your top stitching. It makes the lining to just sit perfectly inside. Okay, around the neck area. Now after I'm done top stitching around the lining part for the neck area, I'll go ahead now to close the armhole area and then the sides. Okay, now after I'm done doing that, as you can see, I went ahead to notch it, and then I'll go ahead to turn this to the front piece. Now after turning to the front piece, the next thing I'm going to do is to notch that my dart line very well. Then I'll go ahead to start tracing the waistline that I marked. Remember, I traced it on the main surface. Okay, now I'll go ahead and trace it on the lining part where I'm going to be placing my dart and also my waistline. So now I'll go ahead and turn this over to the back side, which is the lining area, and then I'll go ahead to roll a straight line connecting those marks that I have now. Then after doing that, from my waistline here, which is this part here, I'm going to on the dart leg on my waistline, I'm going to mark ½ inch on both sides of the dart leg. Then I'll go ahead and connect it this way. So whatever I did here is what I'm going to repeat for the other darts as well, both the back piece. Okay, so now I'll go ahead to hold this using ½ inch to hold it at the waistline. After I'm done holding the dart, this is what I have, as you can see. Then I'll go ahead to start sewing the back piece. Now to sew the back piece, okay, I'm going to go ahead and unpin this and then place the lining right side facing right side. Okay, I'm going to place the other one as well, the other back piece, right side facing right side for the lining, and then I'll go ahead to sew with ½ inch for the neck part. Okay, after doing that, I'll go ahead to notch the neck area. Okay, after I'm done notching the neck area, I'm going to top stitch from the neck area from the lining part. Okay, I also did this for the front piece, remember. Now after doing that, I'm going to go ahead and stitch the armhole area and also the zipper area with the side area as well. Now after doing that, this is what I have for both back piece. The next thing I'm going to do now is to take my dart. Okay, so I already have the place that I notch out for my dart. I'm just going to rule a straight line. Okay, I will also do the same thing for the other back piece as well. So after doing this, it's just for you to get the waistline. Okay, the waistline. So I'm going to come down to 18 inches, and this is for my waistline, as you can see. Now I'm going to go ahead and also do this for the other side as well. So I'm going to take half inch on the dart leg on the waist line here. Then I'll go ahead and connect it this way. Okay, so whatever I'm doing on this back piece is what I'm going to do for the other back piece as well. Okay, so this is how I'm going to actually hold the back dart. So just make sure your dart is coming towards the neck area a bit. Okay, now I went ahead to rule a straight line under my dart leg. This is just to make it easier for me to hold the dart. And this is what I have after holding the dart, okay, for the back piece. Now I'm going to go ahead and apply my zip, but before doing that, I'm going to measure 1.5 inches from this down part here. Then on the top area here, I'm going to, on the top part, that is the neck part, on this for the zipper allowance, I'm going to measure 1.5 inches as well. Remember, I made use of 2 inches, while for the that allowance, then I use half inch to turn with lining. So what I have here, the actual this thing that I have here is the actual zipper allowance is 1.5 inches. Okay, now for this waist part here, remember, I minus half inch to avoid zipper bulginess, plus after using half inch to sew with the lining. So what I have left there is 1 inch. So that's what I mark. Now I'm going to go ahead and use my invisible, place my invisible zip this way. Okay, so I'm just going to pin this on the zipper allowance mark that I have there. Then on this particular waistline part, which is I have 1 inch for the zipper allowance, then the down part that I have 1.5 inches for the zipper allowance. Now after placing the zip, this is what I have. As you can see, this is already so lovely. Now I'll go ahead and just trim out the excess, that is the zipper allowance essence showing at the down part. Now after doing that, I will go ahead to shape this. Okay, so I've also gone ahead to join the shoulder of the back piece and the front piece together. Now I'll go ahead to shape this. I already marked where I'm going to shape off camera, so I'm just going to explain how I did that. So my bust circumference is 40 inches divided by 2 give me 20 inches. So I marked 20 inches there. I divide what is left here, then I mark the point. Then on my under bust line, I mark my under bust measurement, what is left there, I divided by 2. Then on my waist line, I divided my waist measurement into 2. Then I measure it, what is left there is what I divided by 2. So from this my chalked shaped line, I'm going to take my bust measurement of 20 inches, then my under bust measurement of 16.5 inches, then my waist measurement of 17 inches. Now I'll go ahead and roll a straight line. Remember, the measurement should be divided by 2, okay? So after I'm done shaping it, this is what I have for the top piece. I'm going to keep this aside, and then I'll bring the down parts and run a loose gather stitch, okay, just to gather the top part, just the top part. I'm going to run the loose gather stitch, okay. But before doing that, I'm going to go ahead and measure the roundness of the waistline, okay. That is this down part from the zipper allowance part here. I'm going to measure round to the other zipper allowance part, okay. So after I'm done doing that, I have 47 inches, okay. So that is how I'm going to gather the down part of this gown. Now after I was done doing that, as you can see, how I got the length of this, what I'm used to make the gather, is my half length is 18 inches, right? Then I came down by half inch from this top part here, and then I measured down to the full length that I want, which is 38 inches, and I mark 39 inches. So I'm going to use 1 inch to fold the down part. Okay, now after I'm done doing this, the next thing I'm going to do is to measure the roundness of this my gather stitch. Okay, so I'm going to make sure I have 47 inches. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure I have 47 inches. So right here I have about 47 to 48 inches. I'm still going to adjust it while I'm sewing it up with the top part. Okay, so now I'm going to join the top piece and the down piece together. Okay, I'm going to start from the zipper allowance of the top piece and the down piece. I'll join it this way and sew with half inch all around till I get to the other side of the zipper allowance. Now after I'm done doing that, this is what I have. You can see how lovely this came out. So you can make use of your crepe for this particular style. You can make use of your chiffon for this particular style. Okay, but I made use of Mikado. And if you're on the bigger size, I make use of 2 years for mine, but if you're on a bigger size, you can make use of two and a half, 3 inches or 3.5 inches. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and close this down part, but I'm going to come down from the waist part here by 3 inches or 2 inches. Then I'll go ahead to stitch it down. After I was done doing that, this is what I have. I've gone ahead to fix my zip. Okay, and this is how it's looking at the back. Very lovely. So at this point, if you've not subscribed to my channel, kindly subscribe, share, comment, and like. So this is all for my basque waistline gathered short dress. You can actually add sleeve if you want. Okay, now the next thing I'll do is to fold the down part by half inch and by another half inch and sew round. Okay, I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now, and thanks for watching.